Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. We are soon to start our webinar of the learning community. So we just get everyone in first and then just wait a couple of more minutes so that everyone can log in, get to their microphones, cameras, or off camera as you prefer. We have a couple of people that are still in the waiting room or transitioning to join us here on the spot. So please bear with us and give us a couple of more minutes. So I also leave the screen open to everyone so we can see each other's faces before we start officially. Perfect. Maybe we just give it one more minute and then we can start. So good to see everyone. Good morning. Wonderful that you made it. We also have our two speakers with us that I will introduce in a couple of more minutes. So while we are still waiting, yeah, I'm happy that you made it also to our second webinar. By the way, just a quick show of digital hands. Who has also been with us for the kickoff in last month, so in March? So who was already part of this webinar series? So we have a webinar each month now on circular economy related aspects. We kicked the series off last month. So just maybe introduce yourself in the chat. You can also share if you have been part of the kickoff in March, or if you're new to the webinar series, you're welcome to use the chat and introduce yourself if you want, because we are a smaller group, and you can then just say hello to each other if you wish. And then we just get started soon, I guess. Okay. Then I think for now, please use the chat if you want, if you have questions during the presentations. And then we can get started all together. So I will also share the slides with you, so you also know what you can await for today. Valeria, also thanks for using the chat. Great to have you also here for the second time. And please also join Valeria in introducing yourselves to each other. So that would be, of course, great. Just use the chat. And Asel, it would be great also if you could check in case there's any, technical issues with background noises, if you can mute everyone who is not speaking currently.
Sorry?
That would be fabulous. Wonderful. Okay. Then I will share the slides so that you can join me in looking at what we're presenting or looking at today. And as I said, once again, hello and welcome to the Circular Economy Hub Learning Community. As I said, this is our second event now, and we are today joining each other to hear more about the topic of connecting sectors, unlocking potential, the practical approaches to collaboration. And I'm happy to also have two speakers with me also today. And as you can see, this is the agenda. So we have the intro and framing. We will talk a little bit about what we're expecting today. The second aspect will be a brief presentation by myself after I introduced our speakers on foundations of cross-sector collaboration. And then finally, you will also hear a little bit more from our guest speakers, a case study also by Interzero. So Darja and Andrea with me today, and we'll share a little bit more insights on what they have been doing. And then also some summary closing remarks. And then you also have an opportunity for Q&A. So you're very much welcome to also then use the chat in the meantime if you have any questions, so that we can wrap it up after each of the presentations that we will hear today. So please use the chat if you have any questions, any remarks. And then Asel, you're also welcome to let me know if there are any questions while I'm sharing the slides so that I can respond to these right away. Now, before I continue, let's also officially welcome our two guest speakers for today. So today with me, I just briefly mentioned them. It's Darja Figelj, also the General Manager of Interzero. So she will also introduce what they are doing later on. And we also have another team member from Interzero with us, Andrej Brezavšček, and he's an attorney at law firm Brezavšček Žgavec Limited. And yeah, Andrej, I'm still working on the Slovenian correct pronunciation, as you can see, but I'm doing my best as I can. And it's wonderful having both of you here. So warm welcome to both of you. Wonderful. Then it's great having you, and we will hear your cases, your input a little bit later today. So I will jump right into the presentation, if you allow. And so what are we hearing today? So my assumption is, the cross-sector collaboration is actually a game changer for the circular economy. And I would like to kick us off with the question, but why? So do you have any idea why I am brave enough to put this assumption out there to say that cross-sector collaboration is actually a game changer for the circular economy? Any idea why this might be a game changer, why this is important for us to collaborate to work on the circular economy? You can use the chat. You can also unmute yourself as you like. And Asel, if there's anything incoming in the chat, you are welcome to also read that out for all of us.
Yes, hi, this is Valeria speaking.
Hi, Valeria.
Hi. I think collaboration is a game changer in a way, even a foundation for circular economy, because circular economy is a systemic concept. It applies to a system, and a system is obviously some interconnection between different actors, and no company can really doesn't really apply to a single company. This concept, it needs upstream and downstream parties to sort of to fit in a certain bigger system and make the flows work. So it cannot just be one company by itself deciding we go full circular and nobody else in the whole system sort of being part of that vision.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Yeah, you summarized it very nicely. Thanks for sharing that. Absolutely. So we are all part of a system at different points of the value chain. And to come full circle, we need each and every partner of and along the value chain to really collaborate. So thanks for bringing in this idea of the systemic perspective. That's very valid. Anyone else who wants to share? And even if you have an example already, what you're doing, you can also share that now to make the point of being a game changer.
Good morning.
Good morning, Danica.
Good morning, everybody. I shall not give any example because I don't have it at this second, but I shall only tell you that every time when I see the word collaboration, I'm very happy because the collaboration is the word that came out of COVID, and it's since then, like we had agility and all kind of, words. Now collaboration is like the #1 word around the world, and so it's I don't know how it will change now with all these political changes, but collaboration was still, let me say, till recently the #1 word in all the dictionaries and everywhere, the most used word. So
thank you so much for adding this, Danica. Good to see you also joining us today. Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. So if we have learned one thing from COVID is that we really need to collaborate, especially when we are facing huge challenges. that not only one single actor alone can solve. And I think that's a very valid lesson also for circular economy, because it's a huge change to the present system, from take, make, waste, to really thinking about how we can close the loop. And we need to collaborate across sectors to make this happen. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. Okay, then I will proceed, because now the question why you're all here and what it's all about is how can we achieve it and how can we do it? So this is also why we have come up with different reasons that we want to show and share with you why we think collaboration makes sense and is also a game changer. So first reason would be that wicked problems and challenges are there, of course. You all witness them every year, every day, I believe, and it's very important to find solutions together. And this is the screenshot from the Global Risk Report 2025. And here we have different years that we are looking at. So we have different risk categories: the economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological issues. And you can see that, for example, the issues that we will face in 10 years' time will be predominantly from the environmental area. And that is very, very important for us to understand what kind of risks are arising. And because all of these are wicked problems, so problems where no easy solution can be found, it's very important that we speak to each other, identify some potential solutions, how we can nevertheless tackle all of these complex systems and complex problems. And when you go through the list, even for the 2 years issues that we see, you can realize that this is quite a complex issue, complex aspects that we're tackling or that we need to tackle together. For example, inequality, geoeconomic confrontation as we see it right now, state-based armed conflict, and so on and so forth. So not an easy task, and so we definitely need to work together to address those. The second one would be regulatory shifts require collaboration between all of the different stakeholders. So yes, some of you might also know it, because circular economy is part of the requirements that you need to fulfill for the CSRD, or the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the mandatory reporting that the EU has required for companies of a certain size. And yes, things are in flow, as some of you might already know. But then the question is also, how will this regulatory shift be possible to address if we are not working together? So it's very complex. So if you just think about the bubbles that I highlighted here in green, for example, the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So importing goods into the EU and setting a carbon price that incorporates or reflects CO2 emissions. We need to work with people along the value chain, with our suppliers, to understand whether the requirements. The same also with the CSDDD, so the due diligence directive that tackles the supply chains and sustainable supply chains. All of these aspects require that we talk to each other and that we inform each other, share data, and collaborate to address these complex regulatory framework. And then also reason 3, so the circular economy thrives on interconnection, so no single actor can close the loops alone. And that's also quite important for us to understand. So as Valeria, you also said very correctly at the beginning, so there are different components, different aspects along the value chain where not one single actor can make a change, but then maybe some of us have business models that address consumption. Others have business models like, for example, Interzero, that are working on waste management. And so the question is, how can we collaborate across these different streams and aspects of the value chain to really make sure that the circle is closed? And this is very important for us to understand. Where can the gaps be bridged that are in the take, waste, and waste linear system that we have seen before? Now, What are then the foundations of the cross-sector collaboration? What can we do to address all of these different issues that we see at hand, all of the different challenges that we face? And a lot of people have realized, as you already did, and also as Danica already mentioned, that collaboration is very essential to find solutions to the present challenges, especially during COVID, but also beyond. And so actors have said, well, how about we find allies, we find collaboration partners and form so-called value creation network. And these value creation networks are or have an economic dimension. So usually corporations or institutions of various forms, they join forces and come up with very unique innovations. And then also the other economic or the other dimension next to the economic dimension is the social dimension. So it's also very important to think about reciprocity, to think about how trust can be shaped, because in our economic system, and when I remember the days when I was still studying, my professors have told me, yeah, Marina, everything is about competition, so very rarely we were talking about collaboration. And now, especially in the sustainability paradigm, we find ourselves talking about collaboration a lot more. And now we have to find ways, how can we do this with this still very competitive mindset in our brains that is still embedded. And so it also depends a lot on the human side here, on the reciprocity, on the trust. How can we actually collaborate without sacrificing some of the competitive edge that we might need still in today's world? Now, what you can see and how value creation networks are set up in a nutshell is that we do see cooperative and strategic mergers of legally and economically independent organizations. This is usually because of the fear that a lot of companies have that there might be some, how can I say, intellectual property aspects that are at stake, and where people are more hesitant to share data, to share information. And so they make sure that if they form collaboration efforts, that the business models are so distinct that you're not interfering in each other's domain. Another one is to avoid institutionalization of central management functions. Why is that essential? Because if we are decentralizing, it sparks more innovation. So people have more courage to participate, to share ideas, and to also be more responsible for the process and the innovation that they drive. Additionally, there is an alignment of value creation activities to common goals that is necessary. So yes, you need to think about a joint challenge that you want to solve, because otherwise you can also do it yourself, right? So it's very important to make sure that you have a clear idea towards which common goal you want to walk to and what you actually want to do. And then also that the partners can concentrate on their core competencies. So for example, if I am looking for a partner, I know what I'm good at, and I look a partner that is good in certain things that I don't have a core competency in. And that is very important. So that is now why you see a lot of bigger internationals or multinational companies are joining forces with, for example, NGOs or startups, because startups in their capacity are very fast. They have innovative ideas. They can act in a very agile way. And then when you think about the multinationals, they're like just big, corporations. They're moving usually quite slowly, so they cannot change things so fast as maybe startups can. And so they are teaming up and forming value creation networks. And then also what's still very important is the intensive use of modern information and communication technologies to also spread the word, to inspire others, and to share the nice practices that you're upholding. Now, why are innovation partnerships in these corporate networks so important? So remember, I mentioned the economic dimension and already introduced innovation. So the question is, what can we do in terms of strengthening the individual companies with their skills, with their competencies, We need to think about how we can set up joint processing steps and how they can complete it as efficiently as possible. Then we need to think about the economies of scale and specialization for the overall network and how it can be achievable. And then also think about new market development, sales areas. Why do we want to collaborate and towards which goal? And then thinking about partnerships, especially when it comes to vertical network relationships. So really the partners along the value chain where we can collaborate, supplier relationships that you can think of, but also horizontal partners. So really strategic alliances where we are forming alliances with partners of the same domain or the same competencies. And then also there's a growing importance of the innovation networks that we have seen, especially in the 1990s, for reasons such as high-tech sectors, biotechnology, microtechnology. And now the question is, of course, how are we proceeding with this in the age of AI? And so new knowledge and technologies must be used quickly here to really benefit from all the advancements. Now, nevertheless, there are some challenges, and that is also something that we obviously still want to disclose. Advantages that we see. So here are a couple of things, pitfalls that you might want to look out for. So first of all, the interplay of cooperation and competition. I mentioned it at the beginning. So it's quite important to understand what you're good at, what you're maybe not so good at, where it makes sense to cooperate and to compete. What is the issue with data transparency and also certain gaps along the value chains when it comes to the data sharing? What about the incentive structure, the shared metrics? Is there anything that needs to be set up? If that is missing, it's difficult to motivate people. Safeguarding intellectual property rights. If you're sharing, if you have a lot of trust that needs to establish, there need to be common rules that you also discuss how you're safeguarding the intellectual property that you're all in the cooperation bound to. There can be potential fragility and fragile culture of trust that is related to that. Also complex regulatory framework when it comes to collaboration efforts, the loss of core competence and knowledge, data protection, confidentiality in data exchange. So you can see a lot that has to do with trust and disclosure of information. And then also the cultural and operational silos, how you're effectively working together towards addressing certain key performance indicators. And the last slide before I actually hand over to Andrej and also Darja is the positive note on what makes collaboration work. And you can see here a couple of things that we came up with. Equal rights and obligations for all, a clear distribution of tasks and responsibilities, a consistent commitment, precisely formulated cooperation objectives, a willingness to also compromise, to really get into the dialogue and talk about the pros and cons in a very open manner, a clear distribution of costs and results, the clear idea of how to start the cooperation, shared purpose and trust building, leveraging the idea of a reporting framework, like, for example, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards of the CSRD to more also map, the outcomes and gaps. Then also the profit for all cooperation partners that needs to be clear, and the alliances and ecosystem setup that needs to be structured, a shared purpose and trust building mechanisms, and also digital tools to work together very efficiently. And with that, and on that positive note, and I guess you're also very much eager to learn more about the practice examples. So I welcome also Darja to the floor and also invite Asel to kindly share the slides with us that Darja has prepared, because as I said in the beginning, Darja and Andrej are both project partners of the Become project. That is the cornerstone or backbone of this webinar series. And I believe that both Darja and also Andrej later on have very interesting aspects to tell us from a practitioner's side. So Darja, you're welcome to take it away. I think you're still on mute, Darja.
Hi, everybody, and a warm welcome from Slovenia, namely in the name of Interzero company that is a part of the International Become project team. I have a short presentation prepared, but feel free to ask questions already in between my short presentation. So let me introduce you to our Interzero team. If we go to the next slide. Here with me is also Andrej Brezavšček, attorney of law, firm Brezavšček and Žgavec, and Tanja Poličnik, independent communication consultant. I am Darja, managing director of Interzero Slovenia, and I'm happy to share today a little bit more about Interzero company and our action towards world without waste. This is our not utopic, but yet optimistic goal. What is Interzero and what do we do? We have 40 locations, 40 sites in 10 countries all over the world. And with 2,000 employees, we serve over 50,000 customers. We serve with our knowledge and expertise. We are a global leader in circular economy in waste management field. Last year, we celebrated 20 years in Slovenia. It wasn't always easy, I can tell you, but that's a story for a whole different webinar. I'm running Interzero Slovenia for more than 10 years. If we go to the next slide, in the last 10 years, I have worked with numerous partners of Interzero all over the world. Here you can see that most well-known ones are also in Slovenia. Interzero Slovenia, let's say, works with McDonald's, Obi, Samsung, Hofer, DM, Miller, and several other companies. It's not a boring day at the office. For these slides, it's obvious that all the best branded companies strive for the same goal as Interzero, world without waste. At Interzero, we see every waste as an opportunity to create something new. If we go to the next slide, in Slovenia, we are small in numbers, but big in action. We have 20 employees, but more than 3,000 customers, which is a lot in a small market like Slovenia. And every year we got more customers. So I can report that also Slovenia-based companies are more and more sustainable and taking seriously its waste management. I know that talking about tons of waste, nothing will actually mean to you, but just to give you the comparison, packaging in Slovenia, we have around 250,000 tons. And only through Interzero Slovenia goes yearly approximately 100,000 tons. Not only from Slovenia waste streams, not only collected in Slovenia, we are part of the global waste streams. So we are really passionate in making new things out of waste. But these new things for us is that we actually, with our partners, produce a new material, which is flakes or regranulate. So it's not actually the new items, but there are some of them, which I will also show you later. So if we go to the next slide, what do we try to achieve in all these 10 countries when we operate? We are creating a world without waste, and therefore we are a leader in circular economy all over the world. I bet I sound utopic just now, but you will later on see what I meant by that. We are even creating boots from waste. Literally, nothing is a waste to us. If we go to the next slide, thank you. Here you can see our solution. We offer different circular solution and we focus on recycling plastic. And talking about plastic, there are a variety of plastic and we are very specialized in household plastic, which is very difficult material. Why? This is all the packaging you see, for example, in yellow bin, which we are putting as a households in a yellow bin, because every packaging is made up of different plastic. It's quite not uniform. That's why more difficult to recycle. So here are more detail what I mean by that, what everything has to be done to recycle. I start to talk about packaging, but we are also in other waste streams. So in Slovenia, also taking care of the recycling of waste electronic appliances, batteries, graft candles, very specific soup products, and keen to find a solution for each of them. If we go to the next slide. So since I know this presentation talking about ourselves and what we have and what we want to achieve can become quite long and maybe boring, I wanted to show you a few examples of what we do. And here is my favorite project. It's from Poland, where Interzero Poland was recently contacted by automotive company that had a lot of waste of broken car glass, wind screens. They strive not to make so much waste, so they ask Interzero to come up with a circular solution. So even the wind screen is not from the unique material, is a glass and a very thin layer of plastic. And out of the process, we managed to get this layer of plastic because glass is very easy to recycle. So it's melted and recycled. But this plastic was usually incinerated, let's say, in this process. But we managed to get this plastic out of it, and this plastic, compared with rubber, is then used in the boots, in new product. So we are making actually boots. So something that seems in your eyes maybe a logical waste, like broken glass, we see as an opportunity to create something new, something beautiful or something useful. Circular economy is not just recycling books into a new, I don't know, paper, brown paper. It's a creation of something new. And this is how our goal, a world without waste, can be achieved. This project is about responsibility, sustainability, and above all, taking care of our planet's environment for ourselves and future generation. If we go to the next slide, if there is a participant from Slovenia, you must have heard of our project with Lidl. With them, we are collecting empty bottles all over Slovenia and trading empty bottles for human cause. Each empty bottle donated by citizens of Slovenia is reused. It's a fantastic project with a very good response of the public. That makes me sure of one thing. People are cautious about their waste and they have environmental and social responsibility. And this is it. And we need to collaborate to find opportunities and make them real, make them happen. And if we go to the next slide, what I wanted to show you here, that we are also helping companies with our knowledge, especially small and medium companies don't have, for example, ESG experts. We offer resource safe certificate where we calculate for them how much they saved in resources and greenhouse gas emissions. It's very important, not only because of ESG principles, but also because you can only make progress if you know your numbers. And if you go to my last slide to conclude, Interzero, and especially Interzero Slovenia, is an example how we can make big changes if you think out of the box and the waste management field. We live circular economy and we try to create world without waste. Through our eyes, it's kind of world can be achieved. But we might need a little bit of help from all of you. Together we are stronger. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darja. Very inspiring presentation. And we already got some feedback also in the chat or some questions. So, for example, from Valeria, a very interesting case from Poland. Could you maybe share if the boots can be recycled again after the end of life? Do you have any insights on that?
It's quite a new product, but I will check that. But I'm sure it can be, because there are only two materials, let's put it, or three materials. Yeah, it can be everything recycled, but it's the matter of costs. Costs, and in this case we have three material in boots, and partners who really want to participate to find a solution, to invest the time, energy, and maybe also a common project with the money, and start. Yeah. And then the economy of scale is important. First are small pilot projects, and the economy of scale, which then make these recycling projects tangible and used in everyday life. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. And if you have any further questions to Darja, feel free also to put them in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself. And if there are no further questions at the time being, Darja, thank you so much for introducing all of the different fantastic projects that you're already doing. And I'm sure Andrej will also add a new layer also to this perspective. So thanks, Andrej, also for being with us. And thanks, Darja.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrej Brezavšček. I'm an attorney at law, and I help Interzero through regulatory labyrinth, which is in place, especially in the waste business. I will discuss how extended producer responsibility, or shortly EPR, can align sustainability with the logic of economic markets. So let's begin where it all starts. It's with free markets. Already Adam Smith famously said that we don't get our dinner from the benevolence of the butcher or the baker, but from their self-interest. There are also sayings that free market is the most powerful tool in history for lifting people out of the poverty. So why not use this same logic to address waste and resource depletion? What if the market could reward circularity the way it rewards efficiency? So the next slide, please. But markets don't always deliver optimal outcomes, especially when costs are hidden, like, for example, pollution. And economists call this as a negative externality, which was perfectly explained by Avocat General Jacobs of the Court of Justice of the European Union in this case, where he explained that when a producer pollutes but doesn't pay, they ignore the societal costs. The market underprices pollution and overproduces harm. So what is the solution? To make the polluter pay. So we have to shift costs from taxpayers or to those who cause the damage. So this citation here on the screen represents a clear and thorough explanation of the polluter pays principle and the concept of negative externalities. The next slide, please. So we have to internalize negative externalities in the business costs, which is already in practice in the EU. For example, the most famous system is the European Union emissions trading systems, or ETS, which charges for carbon dioxide emissions. So the carbon price puts cost on pollution and incentivizes cleaner productions. For example, we have in Slovenia a coal electricity plant, which was built not so many years ago, but already became not profitable because of the carbon dioxide allowances that they have to pay. So they produce electricity that is more expensive than the market, and they will probably have to close the power plant, which is for environment a good outcome, but maybe not so for the business. So we have also other schemes, and one of those is also extended producer responsibility, or EPR, as mentioned. So what is an EPR? It is an environmental policy approach where producers are given financial and or physical obligation for the end-of-life management of the products they place on the market. So the aim of EPR is to internalize environmental costs associated with products throughout their life cycle. And the second aim is to incentivize better product design, and also notably to shift the burden away of waste treatment away from municipalities and taxpayers to the companies. So with EPR, producers have to pay, and in return they get a bit of control and an incentive to innovate for their burden, to lower their burden. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So according to OECD, there are 4 broad categories of EPR instruments, and they can be used also in variety of combinations. And each country, of course, implements EPR schemes as it deems fit and according to local specifics. So the most important is the product take-back requirements, which involve assigning responsibility for producers or retailers to take the product back after the end-of-life management. There are also economic and market-based instruments. For example, deposit refund, which means that an initial payment has to be made at the purchase and is then refunded when the product is returned, or the waste product, or maybe the plastic bottle is returned. There are also can be applied advanced disposal fees, or material taxes, or the combination. There is also, of course, regulation and performance standards such as minimum recycled contents, which can encourage the take-back and end-of-life products. There are also information-based instruments which aim to indirectly support EPR programs by raising public awareness. So there is the previous slide, maybe again. There is a picture which depicts how material flows. So there is virgin material extraction, there is the production, manufacturing, consumption, and after consumption there is waste, which we strive to be recycled, and the material goes back to the primary production. Okay, the next slide. So EPR in the European Union is regulated by Waste Framework Directive, which poses general minimum requirements for extended producer responsibility schemes. So if a country decides to impose EPR to certain waste stream, those general principles must be applied. But also in European Union, it's already mandatory for key waste streams such as packaging, electronics, batteries, and vehicles. Okay, so this European approach creates a European market for recycling, recovery, and compliance services, and set a minimum performance and transparency requirements. So maybe I can explain what an EPR organizations actually do. An EPR organization, or PRO, one of those is also Interzero. So those organizations enable producers to fulfill their legal obligations to manage the waste generated by their products. But of course, because producers cannot do it on their own, because that would be impossible, because the producer cannot collect their own waste from municipalities. That's why we need EPR organizations that run collective schemes in the name of the producers. So the EPR organizations, they organize collection, sorting, and recycling of waste. They help producers comply with regulations and manage take-back obligations. And of course, they have to fill the reports to authorities. They have to collaborate with municipalities, with recyclers and waste operators to ensure efficient waste treatment. And of course, they collect fees from producers in order for them to be able to take care of the waste. Yeah. So the next slide, please. In Slovenia, Slovenia has gone even further and extended EPR schemes to 10 waste streams, including, for example, waste grave candles, which we consume a lot in Slovenia. So this is a local specifics that we applied grave candles to the EPR schemes. We are also waiting for textiles to be introduced. It is already mandatory per the Waste Framework Directive that the textile be collected separately as of this year. And there are also multiple schemes for waste packaging in Slovenia. There are 7 schemes that run waste packaging schemes. Among those is also Interzero. So the next slide. And on the European level, there is a new regulation that was passed this year, which is regulation on packaging and packaging waste, shortly PPWR, which promotes high quality recycling and reuse, aims to keep materials in the economy, and also great recyclability of the products. And from 2030 on, all packaging will have to be recyclable, otherwise it will not be allowed to enter the market. And the PPWR is really thorough regulation, but among other things, there is also a requirement to impose eco-design fees for EPR products, so that those eco-design fees will be based on recyclability, which will mean that if you put a product on the market which will be more recyclable, the fee for EPR should be lower. So it intensifies so it, like the producers to create eco-friendly products. So which creates a direct link between eco-design and costs. So it makes sustainability not only it makes it as a business decision, which is a key. Next slide, please. So the role of EPR systems in the circular economy, in my opinion, is a key tool for green transition and for the economy to become circular. because it aims to reduce the landfill and incinerations. It ensures supply of secondary raw materials back to the market. It helps companies close material loops. And for example, it also already mandates for single-use plastic bottles. As of 2025, there must be at least 25 recycled plastics in a plastic bottle, and it will rise. This minimum recycled material will have to reach 30% by 2030 and even 65% by 2040. So the EPR schemes also take care of or ensure that the supply of secondary raw materials are circulated to the economy so that the recycling targets and recycled content can be met. Next slide, yeah, thank you. Now we get to the heart of the issue. So here's the paradox. Free markets are efficient, but too often they ignore environmental harm. So how can we make sustainability sustainable? So we have to, EPR is one example, which turns end-of-life waste into a producer's cost. For example, carbon pricing makes pollution expensive, and design standards reward reusability. The circular economy should also be deemed as a market opportunity. But there is a pending case, which an important case at the European Union Court of Justice, where also Interzero is a party of this procedure. We had the new Environmental Act, ZVO2. So Environmental Act imposed a monopoly model that would allow only one profit EPR scheme per waste stream in Slovenia, which should be owned by the producers. And in this case, which is still pending, is the question if the EU competition law and free movement of goods and services is compatible with such a solution for the state to impose a monopoly on such markets. So this is still pending and open. I think it's gonna be very important message if the circularity can be a business model with the competition, or we should run these circularity models with state-owned monopolies, if such outcome is allowed in member states. So why it matters? Because EPR isn't just about bins and recycling targets. It sits at the intersection of environmental protection, internal market freedoms, industrial policies. In my opinion, this is my opinion, of course, that competition among EPR schemes means better service, lower costs, enables choice for producers, and also yields more innovation. Because if you eliminate the competition, then you also eliminate competition to innovate. But also, unfortunately, too often, especially in the waste business, companies must overcome regulatory constraints, even if the idea is very, very good and very circular. But yeah, there are a lot of, especially in waste business, there are a lot of regulations that have to be overcome. Next slide, the last slide. So let's close again with Adam Smith, who told us to appeal to self-interest, not benevolence. That's what sustainable transition to circular economy should also do, to make sustainability profitable, compared to doing business without having regard to circular business models. So we could translate his saying to that we should not expect circularity from the benevolence of the producer, recycler, or the consumer, but from their regard to their own interests. So we have to address that circularity becomes profitable, and that market logic is intertwined with environmental logic, and that we incentivize better environmental business models. Okay, so thank you for listening. It concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Andrej, also for taking us through a very hard topic to digest. Obviously, I know, and I always appreciate people who are dealing with the regulatory frameworks and policy instruments. And I think what you did very well today is also to make us understand how the policy instruments are important to circular economy, why they matter, and how they challenge the dominant business paradigm that we are still facing. So thanks for sharing that and making the effort. I know it can be hard because I'm also teaching on the CSRD, so the Sustainability Reporting Directive, and I know how hard it can be to still motivate people to engage in this topic. So thanks so much to both of you for making the effort to also share with us what is possible, what is maybe not possible, and where we still need to work on, and so forth. And before we are all parting ways, I wanted to quickly share a final slide to give you more of a information on how we are, let's say, proceeding also with this webinar series. And this is our next event, and you can also find all of the information on all the upcoming events on the webpage below on the project website that we have on the IEDC webpage. You can also scan the QR code where you can find all the information, and you can register for the next event, where we also dive a little bit deeper still into the topic of cross-sector collaboration, so that we hear more examples, more insights also from businesses, from NGOs, from education, and learn about the different perspectives. And I want to close also with saying thank you to everyone for attending, but also thank you for giving us some of the inspiring insights on, Andrej, what you mentioned, for example, on the so-called old ways of doing things, so that we also then have to think about new concepts like the polluter pays principles and how this can be formed and turned into a policy instrument, and that also the EPR might be one of those forms that will bring change and also enable us to realize the circular economy. And that links very well back to the start of the webinar, where we started off with the different reasons, and that policy and also the regulatory environment can be one reason why we need to team up, because it's getting very complex. We all need to work on joint solutions on how we can make this transition happen. And thanks also to Darja for giving us some nice examples already on the Poland case, so turning glass to boots, also the Lidl case that you mentioned. So I think that provided us a very nice food for thought and some inspiration on where we can work on. So thanks to everyone for sharing these insights. Thanks to our two speakers today for making the time and coming up with these nice examples. And if I have your permission, we will also forward the slides to the participants, if okay with you, so that they can read up more on the background information that you so kindly shared with us. And I want to say thank you to everyone. And for those of you who still have questions to this smaller round and don't want to voice it either in the chat or in person, you can also stay on and ask them. We are staying on for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes and see who wants to still chat with us. Otherwise, I will wish you a nice day, and it was great that you joined. So thanks and goodbye.